What is going on, everybody? Zach Mo here, and today I'm going to be walking through how to create a top line. This is going to be a bit more of a music theory tutorial and try to help you create your own melodies, but I'm not actually going to be making a melody. I'm just going to be showing you different tips and tricks. And so here I have pulled up just a chord progression. You can make any chord progression you want. Today's tutorial, I'll be using the scale of C major or A minor, which basically means it's going to be all the white keys. This is the simplest scale for an upcoming musician to learn because it's all the white keys, as I mentioned. So all the white keys. So if you play those, it'll always sound good. And what you can do is after you make your melody in that key, you can then pitch it up or down and it'll still sound good. Like I could pitch this down too, and this chord progression will still sound good. It's in a different key now, but it'll still sound good. But when I pitch it back up, this is in C major, all the white keys. Also still sounds good. So let's get started on how to create a good sounding top line, specifically for pianos, but this kind of applies to any instrument as well. So the first thing I'm going to kind of show you is essentially how to humanize melodies that you're playing. So for me, I always go to the 1/4 beat and I do little progressions like this. Like see this, how it hits like that. Just having this little essentially passing note before you get to here sounds really good and humanizes it. It's a bit more complicated than this. And just can give you a little bit of more complex melody simply. Now, another reason I'm choosing this B note here is because there's a B here in the chord. You don't have to only use notes that are in the chord, but generally when you're an upcoming musician, you want to stick to stuff that is going to sound good all the time, and using the notes within the chord will always sound good. Like for the top line, if I want to add a note up here, this E will always sound good, whereas this F will give some tension just because it's above here and below here. Can you use it? Yes, if that's what you're going for, but generally, if you want stuff to sound good, if you're upcoming, just stick to the notes that are in the scale. So we're going to go ahead and do this as the top line so far. Just kind of play something out here. Another thing you can do in your top lines, repeat notes back to back if you want, but we're going to change this here. I want it to go up. Then we can just duplicate the top line over. You don't want to do too much with your top lines. Keep a lot of room. But the biggest thing that I like doing, and I think that something any really good melody maker does, is what's called the resolve. So at the end of your loop, whether it's 4 bars or 8 bars, you want this last area to resolve. This is basically a way of letting a listener subtly know that it's coming to the end of the pattern, essentially. So for instance, a way to do that would be just simply changing up how this ending plays out. So we could do something like this. Now it's slow. That's just one way of it resolving. There's a lot of different ways we could do it. We could also go like this. Do something a little bit faster. That doesn't really sound so good with this sound, but maybe a more ambient sound, you could get away with something like that. But for the resolve, what we're going to do is just kind of change up the rhythm a bit. And so getting the resolve right is very, very important. And we're actually going to go ahead and do another one of those passing notes there. We're going to sustain this B note here. Some other tips that can help you with your melodies. On the chords, I'm actually going to strum the chords just a little bit. It gives it this more human feel. As you can see, you can strum like this. You can strum them manually as well. If you hold Alt, you can then just drag as much as you want. And then you can just cut these little ending sections off. So if I show you what just that sounds like, if I delete this for a second, see what it sounds like strummed, unstrummed. When you strum it, it just sounds slightly more human. Just like gives it a more natural feel, especially when you're using a sound like a piano where you want it to sound very human. Another thing you can do is randomize your velocities. It's just another way of making it humanized. Now you can also do this yourself. Like let's say I want to make all these notes here lower. I can do that. In FL Studio, you select a note. You can hold Alt and then use the mouse wheel to make something louder or softer. So this is if everything's playing at full velocity. See, it's all very hard and aggressive sounding, whereas softer. So now velocity isn't just volume. Like I know it might be perceived that this is quieter, but I can always raise the volume and get it to sound that way. The biggest thing that velocity controls is how aggressive you want it supposed to be, not volumes. I think that's a common misconception is people prioritize using velocity for volume change when it's actually meant for like tone change or character change of a sound. As you can tell, like the piano when played very like aggressive sounds different than when it's played more gentle. It just depends what you're going for. Different productions are going to call for different things. So feel free to experiment with velocity, but that's just some tips on how to make a better melody top line and how to create a better melody. So hopefully that helped you guys. I'll definitely be making more videos like this in the future. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments and what other stuff I should go over in future videos. Thanks for watching. Head on over to elizabethrecords.net if you'd like to support me. You can purchase VST expansion banks, drum kits, loop kits, and MIDI kits that'll level up your production there.